What a fascinating time we are in. What an interesting time it is to be alive during this quickening. It is a quickening. It is an opportunity for every sentient being on the planet to become more self-aware, more wakeful, more spiritualized. And that's what we're here to do. That is our purpose in incarnating on the earth as a human being. It seems so very flawed. It seems so challenging. And I believe there's a good reason for that. I believe that it is a school. It's not a punishment. It feels punishing, for sure. But I think every mature person recognizes that challenge and things that sometimes seem punishing are actually very good for us. Or can be. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get to know ourselves better, what we're made of, what's important to us, where we're strong and where we're weak. And that we can change. And these things that we attach ourselves to and cling to the degree where we think that they are immutable, we think that it is what we are, can actually be let go of. They're useful for a time, and then we outgrow them. We're in a time of shedding the old and the outworn. This shedding process has been going on for a while. By the grace of God, it is gradual. And we're given all the opportunity to adapt, to utilize all of the challenge of it. And even though I believe I have a lot of self-awareness and have spent a lot of time in introspection and reading self-help books and spiritual books and practicing meditation, and it's very important to me, always has been, or for a long time has been important to prioritize my spiritual path and my self-development and self-awareness. I still, on a regular basis, feel humbled and see the work. There's an immense amount of work to do still. Not that I had any idea that I was getting any close to any kind of finish line, because I don't think there is a finish line. I think the part of us that is actually that is adjacent to our spirit, or how our spirit communicates with us, our deeper identity, our deeper self communicates with us, is often in our imagination. That's kind of where it starts condensing into this world is through our imagination. And that's tricky, of course, because we can be confused in that translation. We can get swept away by the fantasies. And we've got to recognize that there is a lot of fantasy in our world, in ourselves, a propensity where we want to be carried away. Often we recognize instinctively that there is a need to kind of be washed in the waters of dissolution, and those rigid, hard edges want to be softened. Something that's fascinating about this time, and even this meta experience of self-reflection through video, which I recently was catalyzed to see actually the benefit of myself committing to using video and a platform like YouTube for growth and self-reflection. There is this convergence of Saturnian and Neptunian energy in it. There's illusion. There's this kind of non-locality to it where I don't know who might see it, and I'm obviously conveying only a snippet. But in my experience of committing to showing up and being recorded and bearing my soul and being vulnerable, and there is some commitment to a tangibility that is it's both real and illusionary at the same time. And right now we have Neptune conjunct Saturn in Aries, so self-identity and self-awareness. And I am an Aries, and also Pluto is going through my first house. Pluto is transforming our collective identity. It's moving through Aquarius. It's transforming the way we connect, the way we relate to each other, how we feel about each other. And it will hopefully bring us together in a way that transforms our fears about each other, about the kind of dystopian concerns around technocracy and the downside of a digital technological world. We get to decide. We ultimately, as individuals get to decide. And we need to remember that. We need to remember that we are the ones that are responsible and in charge of our own consciousness. That's about it. That's about all we have control and responsibility for. That's something that we need to cultivate and prioritize. Because if we care about the world, which is really just a projection of ourselves, but if we think that we care about the world, if we care about the oceans and the forests and other people, then in improving our own consciousness, in improving ourselves, we will improve the world. We'll just be better in the world. We'll bring a higher quality of presence to everything we do. I certainly have struggled with my contribution to the world, not looking at the world and thinking, I don't like it. I don't like the way it is. I don't know how to fit in. I don't really even want to fit in. I'd rather disrupt it. But I also can't be bothered. Because if other people want that, have at her. I just don't want to be forced to participate. And that's also where I've gotten hung up, where I feel oppressed. But I've also learned that is me giving my power away when I didn't need to. Because if I reclaim my own consciousness, if I reclaim my own mind and my own thoughts, then I don't actually have to believe that narrative. I don't have to believe a narrative that the government's going to take control and they're going to enslave me. I don't even need to figure out how to maneuver around that. And sure, it's kind of idealistic to think that. It's kind of woo-woo to think I create my own reality. But the fact is that we do. It is actually the fact. It is the fact that we don't live in reality. We live in our neural pathways. We live in the patterns that we've become accustomed to. The lenses, the projections. And especially as human beings, we're very addicted to seeing things in a certain way. And the only way you can really escape that, which is not necessarily even the goal, because we're here to experience a framework and work through that, like a puzzle, like a maze, like the challenge of rendering a portrait in just black and white or a limited palette. This is the Saturnian discipline and challenge. And it's what crystallizes things and makes them tangible. And it can feel oppressive if we don't claim it and use it. This is a giant topic, and I always want to make these things tangible. I have esoteric knowledge. I am interested in looking at things from a mystical and magical framework. But even more than that, I'm interested in making it tangible. I have a strong influence of Saturn in my chart. And I continue to learn how to own that and utilize that in my life. It's a very exciting time that we're in, because there's an opportunity for healing our wounds, the things that maybe we thought were unhealable, the things that seemed fated or cruel and unfair, or we are victimized by. There's a tremendous joy and relief in letting go of obligation, of guilt, of shame, of supposed to, of what if. In truth, everything can fall apart that seems important, and actually everything is improved because we come to a fundamental truth, and that is that our consciousness is eternal and complete. It's actually in subtracting the unnecessary that we can find peace. And in peace, we recognize the fundamental truth of who we are, and that is love. That is a well-being, a sense of well-being, a perfection that really is rarely dipped into by most humans. Right? We're scrambling for something. We're grasping. We're hungry. We're needy. We're busy trying to get something, and what we're trying to get is always with us. It's always inside of us. And I don't necessarily think that the be all and end all, the end goal is just totally dissolve into that and just be there forever. I don't think that's it. But I think that it's about bridging that into the furthest reaches of where it can reach. And I think that is God unfolding. That is the universe unfolding. That we are God. Everything is God. Expanding. Testing. Trying out things. In as many myriad of permutations and forms as it can manage. And it's got forever. I think that recognizing this is a kind of grace. Is something that really only metaphor. I think of a dancer, of the most beautiful things that we know of in this world. The fragility of a flower. All of nature reflects this kind of fragility, and doing it regardless. Not being stopped by death, not being stopped by limitation, by cold, by hunger, by these things. Life itself, that essence within us that's emergent, just keeps going. It just keeps going. Even it may dip into these kind of invisible realms, and then it emerges again. And that emergent is just like, the iceberg popping up above the water. Because consciousness and all this life is also beneath the surface. And it's fine that people are bobbing around on the top for a while. But right now, there's a bunch of tsunamis. There's a bunch of tsunamis, and it's a lot of people are panicking because they see sharks in the water, which are the projection. There are their fears that they haven't addressed. The water represents consciousness, all of consciousness, that we are a part of. We are a drop in the ocean and the ocean in a drop. And that's our work. Our work is to remember that while we're foraying into the matrix. Right? That's the whole story. That is the matrix story of awakening within the matrix. That's where we're at. We're at the awakening point. And it's not required. It's only happens when we desire it enough. And people are mixed in themselves. Everything is such a mix, right? The only thing that isn't a mix is the Tao, is the pure center of everything. The all that is. That's the only truth. That's the only point of awareness that can know absolute truth. Unless you are all that is, you cannot discern the truth, the absolute truth. Everything else is relative. You can only state something about it by comparing it to something else. And that's how our mind works. And that's why we've got two sides of the brain. And that's why there's duality. This is the awareness of good and evil. And there's a power in that. Because if it unfolds all of creation, to carve a sculpture, you've got to cut away what you don't want. And that discernment is that Saturnian energy. And Aquarius is the release of that concretized energy. At a certain point, it implodes. The rigidity and the density, the gravity shatters things. For a time, social media is fascinating, and then egos get shattered in that pressure. And it's no coincidence that our whole concept of celebrity is associated with the star. There's, of course, some confusion, as this is endemic to everything that we experience is confusion. We've got to sort it out ourselves. If we ask somebody else to do it, we're giving away our power. Only we can't so a star, a celebrity, gets its power from the group, the masses. In recognizing, and there's projection, right? And that's been exploited. That person is made a star because a kind of draining of energy from the masses. Now it's time where we recognize that we are all stars in the galaxy, in the cosmos, in the heavens. And we've claimed the essence that is liberated from the process that we've gone through. The oppressive, restrictive, compressing force of Saturn and Capricorn. It's a wheel, and there's wheels within wheels, so it's not like Saturn's going away or Capricorn's going away. It's just the emphasis is moving because Pluto is moving into Aquarius, so Pluto is going to transform our society. As it did with Capricorn, it transformed our structures. And so now it's transforming our collective. And that's great, but it does that by bringing up the shadowy, unconscious elements. So our fears of a technocratic society need to be examined. Perhaps because there's remnants of the authoritarian regime of Capricorn, and all these fears definitely started while Pluto was still in Capricorn. But what's more important is that authoritarianism within us, where we suppress ourselves and we are overly rigid. And for myself, I didn't let myself be vulnerable. I have stopped myself from doing this, from making a video and publishing it, because I felt it needed to meet a certain standard. There's fear of the criticism of that it not meeting a standard, and then also my own desire for it to meet a certain standard. It's also because I have a desire to bring some deep things to it. And that's how I feel about myself in general, is that I have some very kind of vulnerable, tender, difficult things that I want to share, not necessarily with the whole world, not necessarily on the internet, that you can't control once it's released. So Capricorn is about control. I have Capricorn rising. I have Saturn emphasized in my chart, and it's made it difficult for me to have this expression, which we all have, this kind of artistic impulse to create, right? That is innate in every single one of us. But do we let ourselves, and are we in touch with that impulse within us? It's a practice and it's discipline. Every artist will tell you that it takes work to give birth to what the ego, what the imagination is kind of giving to the ego, right? So it's like this stepping down, and the ego is very restrictive. The ego is saying, well, it needs to meet these certain. It's going to reflect on me when I express myself. That's me. That's me. And so the offering needs to kind of come through this testing, and that's okay, as long as we're not aborting everything. Having discernment. So actually the thing that inspired me to actually overcome my resistance to doing this was the experience of trying to make somebody else part of that, kind of forcing it on them. Wanting to be seen, wanting to be recognized, wanting to be loved and accepted by a single other person. And I don't think this is abnormal, but because I haven't had that outlet, because I haven't been doing that with anyone, then it was very pent up. And I'm already an intense, pressurized kind of person. And so when there's, in my mind, a bit of a green light, then it's boom. It's like so much. I've been storing it up for a while. Not even, it's just, there's a certain permission, I think. There's a certain excitement, right, that we have. This is lustiness, this is desire, this is enthusiasm, this is life force, this is Mars, this is Jupiter, this is Mercury, Venus, right? These different energies that mix within us. And I have a certain permutation within me that is both difficult but potent. And I've been wrestling with it my whole life. And I recognize that it's also a gift. It is the gifts that I have that I just need to be skillful with. I often think that, it's you're much more harmless in a horse and buggy or a go-kart than you are in a Maserati or a Lamborghini, right? If you're just taking your time and being cautious, you're not going to do too much damage. But if you're going fast in an expensive, high-stakes situation, then in a split second, you can have a big wreck. And that's what I have been fearful of. Causing a big wreck, causing a big effect that crashes back on me, and the emotions that I associate with that are pretty black. They're pretty bleak, and part of my neural pathways go to that bleak place. Again, I think that there is a strength in it. I can be with people that are sick, that are dying, that are depressed, that are grief-stricken, all that stuff. I can empathize with all of that. It's interesting though, actually I found that now I'm getting to this place, I think as I'm growing out of it, that I'm actually I'm over it for myself, and I'm also over it for other people. In that I want to offer, okay, so what's next? What do we do about it? And I really believe that I have traipsed through the bog of eternal stench, labyrinth, association, labyrinth. Anyways, you get what I mean. I have traipsed through the bog of eternal stench so that I know how to navigate it, so that I know the way out. I believe that's just the context that I hold now. That's just the reference point. And not that I won't go down some, snakes and ladders, back into the bog. But I think that's just what it's like being a human. There's initiations everywhere. Especially when you're saying to the universe, bring it. Right? When you're asking for more, the universe is going to give you more. If you're playing it safe, you're playing small, if you're driving a go-kart, then it's not going to be as dramatic. It's not going to be as hard. I mean, I think it's going to be hard when you're outgrowing your place. Your spirit is saying, okay, you can take on more now. I want more. I'm ready to grow. And right now, the whole freaking world is ready to grow, I think. Or the bulk. The planet, the people on it, the undines and the sylphs and the salamanders and the gnomes. They're ready. They're ready for some healing and to put the past all in context. Why did we go through that? Why did we have to be really stupid for a while, for a long time? What's the purpose of all this, right? And I don't know if there's a way to put that in a nutshell. But when you come back, when you come back to presence, stillness, quietness, it becomes really beautiful. All of the difficulty, all of the suffering, all of the hardship, you get a context for it. And you see the bigger picture. And the humility softens that ego vessel that we're using to play with. And I don't think it's about it's not about one way of being. It's about navigating that for yourself. It's about communing with yourself, your soul, your voice within, or the voice of God within you, your personal version of God, your embodiment. And I think that the intuition will always guide us to balance. And this is the counterpoint of the self, the I amness. The counterpoint to that is harmony, balance with all the other apparent points of reference, all the other apparent selves. Right? Everything, the universe balances itself out. It is all balanced. But it just depends on what you're taking into the equation. If you're not seeing the whole equation, it might look imbalanced. As we expand, we're taking on new information, we're taking on new components, we're testing, we're trying them, and we integrate them as we balance them. Anyways, this is a long-winded thing already, but this is my new practice of just showing up for making these videos, kind of like a journal. And I know there's no intention of commercializing or profiting from. That's not the purpose at all. I have no delusional belief that I'll get a bunch of people. The internet is absolutely flooded with people that are just sitting in front of a camera and talking now, and that's good. I think it's good that it's just what is. It's this opportunity for self-reflection, and it is reflective of the Aquarian age, or we're using technology in this non-local way. But Aquarius is fixed, so it's like tangible thoughts. Thoughts made tangible, delivered to the people. And that's working out these things collectively, discussing things collectively. And I love this. I have Neptune in Sagittarius in the 11th house. And so for me, this is a kind of visionary thing. I have visions for the future that are very Aquarian and Sagittarian. I'm very future oriented because I see in the future somebody like myself that is not so, I don't know. I don't even know that. Just a lot of my ideas and beliefs, I think, fit a futuristic world. I don't think I'm alone in this. I think that there's a lot of people, and it will be so. I'm just really excited for a world where we're past a lot of these things that are really at their end now. I'm so frustrated, for example, with the sexuality thing, that it's taking us so long to sort that out. I'm way in the future with that. I don't feel safe in talking about sexuality on the internet because, well, it's been so restricted. I mean, this is something that I'm working. This is my personal thing, and I think that if I just spilled all of the beans and nobody's going to take me off to jail or anything like that, right? This is the Plutonic fear. Pluto ruling Scorpio. This is that has dominated, right? That sexuality is dark and should be secreted away. And yes, it's the pendulum has swung where we have the opposite, and that's not what I'm talking about either. I'm talking about a kind of egalitarian, humanistic approach to it. For example, I think that we should have places where adults can go and be naked and be sexual with each other in just like a rec center. It's not necessarily sexual. Right now, right? There's little. I mean, sure, go to Berlin or some places, but even still, that's in this like little dark rooms, and it's relegated to a certain very small area. I actually think that sexuality should be part of recreation, like that, and also sexuality not just be about effing. It's our whole body. It's all of our sensuality. It includes all of our senses. And it's very vitalizing. It's very enlivening to get in touch with it. And there's so much toxicity and wounds there that have no movement around because we don't address them, because we don't talk about them, because we relegate it to a certain area. Anyways, that's something I could go on and on about, and I will talk about later. But this is already a super long video, but I'm going to keep showing up for them. Okay, bye.